I don't know how to start off this review, which I know I said many times before, but this is very different. As I have to make clear on a personal note, the way I went to go see this movie, I was going to go with someone who also loves the John Wick movies, and I don't know if I should say who this person was out loud. Um, I don't know. Let's just say this person meant a lot to me. Anyways, no, he also loves the John Wick movies, but he passed away before getting to see this new one. I would have, thought this hard time for me, movies would be my escape. I would just do nothing but hide away and watch movies. But I just actually, it was the opposite. I couldn't go back into watching new movies or anything really for that matter. I wanted to focus on the now, as that is and will forever be more important than watching a movie, because at the end of the day, a movie isn't the same thing as life itself. And even if writing movies or watching movies is my passion, me and him were both looking forward to go see this movie, and I think I wasn't really able to get back to watching movies without that feeling being lifted that he wasn't going to watch it with me, as well as the rest of my life he wouldn't be in it. And I have been given time to focus on what's actually important. Not to say I, ignore them beforehand, or I, obviously if I were going to watch movies, I should ignore the actual stuff in my personal life or professional life. It's just, I have been given time to focus on what's important, and I'm glad I have so much more time, and or I had the time to focus on what's my priorities and what I should actually be doing. But it was also really important I go see this movie for both of us. At least I think in some way, watching this movie makes me feel like maybe, what would have been like if you went to go see it with me. Watching this movie, it makes me feel bad he didn't get to go see it, as this is a cinematic, action-packed masterpiece in all the best ways, and worth it to go see on the big screen, because John Wick Chapter 4 is one of the best movies of the year. Written by Shay Hatton and Michael Finch, with the director of every other movie in this quadrilogy, Chad Stahelski, and starring Keanu Reeves as the one and only John Wick, in, as previously stated, one of the best action movies, little known films of the year. I'd be shocked if this isn't in my top 10 unless 2023 will have so many more great films to offer I have not seen yet. Which I did miss many other movies in March, like Creed 3, Scream 6, Shazam 2, which I know that got mixed reviews, but I'm still looking forward to it. Wait, is that 3? Right. Shazam 2, Willem Dafoe's Inside, and the rest. But, as previously stated, I took time to focus on what's actually important in, life. But I was given IMAX tickets by a friend, which, thank you once more, so I had to go. And when it opens, with the sounds John Wick punching, and the boom power in the sound takes over all my senses, it's really good. I went to go see it in IMAX. I was locked in and ready for the next 3 hours, which I'll get into the runtime in a bit. Now, with all that said, though, what's the movie about? John Wick goes on an odyssey as he's still excommunicado, which, if you don't know what that means, it's when the High Table, the, assassins, Illuminati, whatever, decides that they're going to have to kill this assassin, and the other assassins in this assassin world have to, kill him for money. Or, just want to. But regardless, they have to kill him, and John Wick just keeps living. And as he plans to fight for his life from new enemies and old friends turn foe, as he discovers the only way out is to get to the High Table. Yeah, honestly, it's a pretty simple plot. I mean, while it's easy to say people don't go to these movies for the story, just for the action, the story here is just great. I'm not to say the other movies weren't, good with their story either. The first one is probably the most simple. It was a pretty simple revenge film that really, I'm honestly glad it became so much more. It could have gone down the hole of just being, dragging out was a one-time hit and, hoping lightning struck twice, but no, it struck 4 times. When does that ever happen? Anyways, I'm getting off track. But yeah, honestly, it's a pretty simple plot. The story here is just great. And of course the action is, magnificent as well, thanks to the direction, stunt work, choreography, visuals and sound, and although that might be because of the IMAX, it's just so much more. But let's start off by talking about the cast. Now, the movie, and honestly, is, in my opinion, is an ensemble film when two other characters join John Wick's journey. Not as allies, but also are after John Wick for wildly different reasons. Kane, played by Donnie Yen, who I won't spoil anything about the character, has no choice. Oh, actually, no, I will say. It took me the second time I heard it saying for me to go, oh, I get it. Ha. Whereas, oh yeah, I won't spoil anything about the character, but he has no choice that despite him and Wick having a mutual friendship, he is easily the hardest opponent John Wick has ever known. But then comes in the wild card, Mr. Nobody, played by Shamir Anderson, who comes out of nowhere, but also is a match for Wick. And if you forgot how this franchise started off with, Wick's dog being killed in the first film, Nobody also has a dog who helps him kill, and it's honestly one of the best animal performances in the film. I couldn't find what the dog's name was, but I'm pretty sure that's a real dog. I saw a thing in the credits that said, this was approved by animal protection people, and it takes a lot for an animal to go from lovable to ravenous in a second. It's going to be hard to go into too much detail about either character, but let's say compared to, remember Hal Berry's character in John Wick 3? You remember it being more so, oh yeah, Hal Berry was in the last one. Well, here, without knowing that much about either character, both are easily memorable to the point I was worried they would overshadow John Wick, but that isn't the case. John Wick as a character isn't that hard to figure out. He's someone who's honorable and probably have your back if he thinks highly of you and could live a life as a decent person outside being a hitman, but he's consumed by anger and revenge where it doesn't challenge his morals, but does make him have to face what he's become and how far he's willing to go when it could be all over. Like, he doesn't shoot innocent people. Oh, yeah, that would make, having to watch people kill people questionable. It's not like this is an Oscar-worthy performance from Reeves. I mean, he's perfect as a character, but, But without much words, you instantly get to know who he is and why he's this beloved character for almost a decade now, despite how many people he's killed. Speaking of the action, it is so worth seeing on the big screen. IMAX, if possible. The first great fight scene has people with guns fight people with swords and bows and arrows, and I would think it'd be, easy for the people with guns to win. But both sides are so skilled it could go either way, and then it evolves with John Wick coming in and uses nunchucks. And man, I love seeing someone actually use nunchucks again. I feel like I always see nunchucks in by people in shows and movies who don't know how to use nunchucks because it's easy for it to be like, Pooh. But it's like, yeah, I'm glad they made the nunchucks badass again. And these action scenes, man, are hard to describe. I mean, why should I describe to you what they are? So many reviews will probably describe, oh, there was this thing that happened with this and that. Like, I'll say this, there's a scene with the stair where, I won't say which character does this, but there's a character who has to kill this person on stairs, and as he goes up each stairs, this character just stabs his back until he dies. But, yeah, I really don't want to spoil it since, I said that, but I don't want to spoil the rest of it because it just goes up and up from each scene. But I've never seen this kind of action shot so beautifully. Or, I probably have, but, with the lighting, like, there's a subtle storytelling done with this scene, with the red lighting done with one character. I won't spoil who, but if you follow it, you might pick up on it, on what, at least, or, I think the people who wrote it did with the character. And, at least I think that's what it was, because, there's storytelling done with the contrast with the red and blue lighting. And, scenes that are also in the movie that make the action great, that are uncut and go on for maybe too long, but it becomes clear how brutal and attention to detail each fight or action scene is. It's not a problem. I don't care if it goes on for too long. I'm invested. It's not like, this movie is just action. It has a good story to tell, but because you really understand what each fight with a person is, like, it's not just bang, bang, bang. It's like you understand the struggle each person has, or, you flip them or whatever. It's like, because I understand how, it takes to fight each person, it's like, yeah, okay, this takes a while. I'm smiling still. I'm smiling. Anyways, yeah, but speaking of being too long, the movie, as I said before, is but around 3 hours long, and that's probably because they were originally going to have chapters 4 and 5 be shot back to back, but in the editing room, I'm sure during COVID, they were like, to hell with it, and combined it to make the best film they could. I could assume where this was going to be a two-parter, but I'm glad it never felt like, two movies crammed together. Like, I could probably guess, like, okay, if I had to, like, separate this into two movies, that would be the middle point, but, I'm glad it never felt like I'm just watching, editing mess. This movie, honestly, if anything, if I had to compare this movie to anything, it reminds me of Mad Max Fury Road, where it's just a beautiful and it's brutal world that I, for sure, don't want to live in, but without knowing much of the characters, what I do know, I still root for them throughout. I will say, if the movie has one problem, it's the suspension of this movie being stretched out so much. Like, these are magnificent action pieces, but at times, John Wick will take a fall or just get shot, but he gets up and walks off like nothing. Like, if the ending of the third movie made it seem like a miracle Wick survived, there are so many times here he should be dead, or even have a bone broken, or like limp even, like just limp, or like ow, but he powers on through, and if it's too much for it to make the action sequences feel like they still have stakes, it's understandable, I guess. I mean, not I guess, like, honestly, yes, I could see it being a big, take you out of the suspension of belief that, like, this guy is a human being. But I was still unsure after that if Wick would survive or die at any point in the movie. Like, it still felt like, oh man, is he actually gonna die? And with how this movie ends, with the applause-worthy climax, and while without spoiling how it ends, but I was still unsure after that if Wick would survive or not. Like, with how this movie ends, and with the applause-worthy climax, and while without spoiling how it ends, with talks of still making John Wick 5, I think this is the proper conclusion of the character. And if this was the last of the character, I'd be satisfied. And spin-offs of this world with more characters I didn't even mention, or, prequels, or whatever. Because this is a magnificent cast of other great performances I haven't mentioned yet, like Ian McShane, Bill Skarsgård, Lawrence Fishburne, Hiroyuki Sanada, Clancy Brown, and Rina Sawayama, who did the movie soundtrack too. This is her film debut, and you know what? Good debut. You kicked a lot of ass. And also, yes, Lance Reddick is in this, and he also died. I haven't seen that guy. I don't think I've seen that guy's work as much as, the other people in this movie. But regardless, death is sad. It's bleak. It is one thing, I guess, to watch a movie with people dying, but in real life, they don't come back, and it does feel like they should. But this movie, it was a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece that maybe does go on for a little too long, and honestly, despite me loving the John Wick movies, I don't really rewatch them that much, but in the future, if I did, I still feel like I'd be engaged. And with this new film that could have been too much, it's the right amount, and it's great. I don't know what else to say without going into spoilers, so I'd rather just say thank you. This is what made my dad happy. And in some ways, it's the way it talks about life and death in the movie. It gave me closure. I mean, okay, maybe not closure. It's not like I cried or anything, but, and I mean that. Like, if it didn't make me cry, I would admit it. That's how a good movie makes you cry. But, in a strange way, a movie with a body count in the hundreds made me happier than I had been in a long time. It's often hard to say goodbye when you don't know it is the last time you're going to say goodbye to someone. But if this is the end, thank you, John Wick. Goodbye. Or, they could just make John Wick 5, why should they? Anyways, even though I feel like this movie deserves a 9 out of 10, on a personal note, because of what this movie means to me, I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a 9.5 out of 10.